thank you for staying. Thank you for staying and joining after my little talk this morning. This one is going to be a little bit longer, and I'm going to there's a little bit of Transformers going on. Okay, I think we have AI coming to this talk as well. Right. So here we have a little bit of an overview, some of the things that we have seen in the morning. So we have BART, we have Palm, Vertex AI, etc. Who was this morning? Who watched my talk this morning? So I can know who was. And all the rest were sleeping, no? It was too early. I understand. I mean, before me, there was what's the name of not the major, but was the principal of the university. Not really exciting, no? Not really exciting. But you missed my talk. My talk was probably the best. But okay, now I'm going to be covering a little bit with more detail. So this is my name, Gerard Sans, and I'm coming from Barcelona. I moved to England, so I'm actually now traveling from London. And this is me during COVID. Yes, it's very cold in England. And here are some of the places I've been speaking. So I've been speaking in a lot of places, and I really enjoy sharing what I learned. So let's get to it. And there has been a lot going on in AI. And for Google, the day that they share all of their strategy and all of their products were during Google AI, during Google I/O. And I was covering some of the announcements this morning, but here there is another way of looking at these products. And you can see features on the left side and then complexity on the bottom. So all of these tools will give you different levels of complexity and also different levels of features. As you can see, what gives you more features and is a little bit more difficult to use is Vertex AI. But that will give you a lot of options. Then, as a developer, you can also use MakerSuite. So that's going to be a little bit more complex. But if you want to start, I think the first thing that you should try is BART. BART would be the equivalent of ChatGPT. So if you have used ChatGPT, this should be very familiar to you, and you can try it and experiment. Okay, so this is a little bit of an intro. Then the whole ecosystem includes some other things. We have talked about BART. Palm is the foundational model. We're going to cover a little bit more detail on this. Vertex AI, I'm going to give you an overview of what are the different features. So if you want to develop on Google Cloud using AI, that will be your go-to service. And then we also talked this morning about Duet AI and the second generation, which are AI assistants or AI agents. What was the main difference? Do you remember? Do you remember anything from this morning? Yes, they can execute actions, which is something that ChatGPT can do, but you need to use the paid version. With the paid version, you can actually send an email or use an API. But with BART, now you can do it for free. So it's quite exciting. Okay, so we have seen some of the foundational models, but the problem with the foundational models is that they were trained using the internet. And of course, you go to the university, you will go to Google search to learn. No? It's not a good source of information. So what they did is create a specific model which was only trained with medical information. Because you won't want your model to be trained on the Google search information. You want to be trained on good medical information and good medical studies. And this is what they did. And this model is called MedPalm. So we will see more models like this, which are specific for a specific domain. There's another model that is specific for security, and this is SecPalm. As you can see, it covers quite a lot of things, but the main idea here is the same with MedPalm, is that it is specific to security. And right now, we can wait in the next few years to have more and more models that are specific to maybe an industry or maybe to one specific feature. One of the good news from generative AI is that now they support more than 100 languages. I mean, this is maybe not as many languages that you speak in Indonesia, but but maybe enough that it can speak a lot of them. So this is quite exciting. And of course, if you work with teams all over the world, I don't know how many of you work remotely, this is very good for the tools. Because if you are in a call, you will see the translation of another speaker that maybe is from another country that you don't know the language. So this is quite exciting. One topic that comes always with AI is making sure that you are using AI responsibly. And at Google, they have these principles. So these are all of the principles that Google tries to follow in all of the AI products. Of course, you have like the good principles, but you also have the bad principles. What are the things that you don't want your products or services to promote? You don't want any AI service to promote anything harmful or to be weaponized, etc., etc. One of the problems building products using AI is that some of the users can use your system for things that you don't want the system to be used. And this is obviously something that you want to take into account. Because if you realize that some of your users are using your system that was supposed to be customer service for doing marketing, someone is using it for doing marketing, I mean, that's not good, but it could be worse than people doing marketing. So you should be very careful with that. Okay. I guess you have a lot of questions. I just like these gaps. Okay, so that was Google I/O, but of course there's another big event at Google, which is Google Cloud Next. And as you can see, the main things announced while Google Cloud Next were Vertex AI, the ecosystem, and then Duet AI, which is the other branch that we also covered a little bit this morning. So now let's cover Vertex AI. As you can see, this is the more complex and with the most features. If you start, I would recommend to start with BART, and then maybe if you want to develop a new feature, maybe use Makerspace. Vertex AI is a little bit more difficult because it's using Google Cloud, and if you don't have experience, it will take a little bit more to get that working. So this is a little bit of an overview. And this is when you want to grow your generative AI solution and scale it for your company. And here we can see the model garden, what is called the model garden. And when you're building a solution using AI, you don't just want to use one foundational model, you want to use all sorts of features. And some of them are coming from open source. And here you can see the list on the left. And depending on the task, you can pick the best model for that task. So you can see here on the left, we have language, vision, we have documents, speech. I'm going to demonstrate some of these features, so wait with me. We're going to use some text to voice later. But this is now Vertex AI. So as you can see, Vertex AI has Palm tool, which we have introduced, and also some other features. So we have models specific to code, voice, and vision. So if you want to develop using these models, you need to use Vertex AI. If you are just starting, you can start playing with pound for text and pound for chat. So this is kind of an overview, so you are aware. There were some new releases in back to Google Cloud Next, and this is one of the main updates. So before Google Cloud Next, we had models of 8K tokens, and after the announcement, we had 4 times that size. And as you can see, the comparison is that if you have to deal with documents, you can move from 12 pages documents to 48 pages documents. So depending on which type of document, you can load all of that document to do your work or maybe your homework, whatever you use these models for. So this is quite exciting. And this is the same example that I showed this morning. I didn't go into the detail of what was happening, but basically this is a connection to a database using C++, and you can translate that into Go. I mean, how cool is that? But the best thing is that because Duet AI has access to your infrastructure, it can also test that that code is working. So that's going to make the translation, but also check that it's working in your infrastructure, which could have taken maybe 1 or 2 days, I don't know. So this is what's coming. Some of the updates also from this event, Google Cloud Next, is that Google, if you pay for Google Cloud and Vertex AI, is going to protect any lawsuit that some third party can do to your company. So that's covering all Google services. So imagine you add one of these AI features to your app, and you are creating documents, you are creating content, you can do it. And if someone complains and says like, oh, I think you are using my intellectual property, and maybe you get into a lawsuit, Google is going to defend your case. It's going to send the lawyers and defend your case. That's covering Vertex AI and Duet AI. And this is one of the main worries when you are building on top of AI. Maybe your company is scared that some other company is going to make a lawsuit because you are using their training data. Okay. Shocking. So one question that comes to mind, and I'm not sure if this has been covered on other talks, is the idea of general intelligence, artificial general intelligence. And the other view is that it's just statistics. There's no intelligence, it's just statistics and patterns. So we get into this question, is large language models like Palm, a stochastic parrot, just repeating what it has seen in training, or there's some intelligence, maybe that we didn't know, we didn't recognize. What do you think? What is your answer so far? How many people think there's some AGI, like maybe a little AGI? Baby AGI, or we have one person? And who thinks it's just like mathematics? Okay, you don't have an opinion. I mean, you are very brave. You know, there's no recording on the audience. There's no bosses. I won't judge you. But you need to make a decision. Like, what do you think? You have used ChatGPT. What do you think? There's some intelligence. There's no intelligence. Intelligence? Okay. No intelligence. Something in between? No. My God, you are difficult. Okay, we'll leave a question mark. You answer question mark. So how this works? No, you may be wondering, okay, Gerard, I've used ChatGPT, like how? How is this technology working? So one way to understand how this technology works is looking at how the training works. There's 2 phases. One is the training, another one is the inference, or when you ask questions. So let's look at the training. And the training is basically guessing the next word. And I'm going to use a Wikipedia article, and it's going to be like this. This is a Wikipedia article, just a small fragment. And the model, in this case pound, is going to try to take the first word and guess the second word. The first try, the model says, okay, Christopher is. Because we know the whole fragment of the text, we can see that the next text is not is, but is Columbus. So that's going to be now looking into the model and making adjustments on the weights. The next word, now because we know it's Columbus, we're going to take another word and try to guess the next word again. And in this case, the model says, okay, Christopher Columbus was, which is not a bad guess, but we know that actually the right word is discovered. So that's wrong. And the model is going to do the same. It's going to look into the weights and try to take this, the probability of guessing was a little bit lower to adjust for this training data. At some point, of course, because we have more words, we have more context, it's going to guess correctly. And it's going to use that information now. Instead of taking the weights away from the token, it's going to favor America if it comes after Christopher Columbus discovered. So it's just adjusting these weights. Then as we go, it takes more guesses right, and we get to the point which ends. What is happening internally, as you can see, I put this graphic there to give you a hint. The intuition is that the model is looking at the relationships between the different words. And as these words repeat more and more, and these words come after the other words, then it starts building these relationships, which is a hyperdimensional graph. I mean, I don't know how many of you are doing machine learning, but this is a way to describe this network. And for pound models, this is 768 dimensions. And these are all of the relationships between these words. The way you write this is into a latent space, which is all of the possibilities of all of the words that the model has seen during training. If we pick one of the words, we can write what is called a word embedding, and we can put the value for the different dimensions. So now we are looking inside these models, and we can see that it's completely mathematics. There's nothing else than mathematics. If we look at another word like American, then we can see that it's exactly the same, but just with slightly different dimensions. So this is how large language models work, but how they process the information. They use tokens, what is called tokens. And here I wanted to show you what are these tokens look like, and I just made up a word. This is a non-existent word, okay? Potato cooler. I mean, I don't know if you created this in Indonesia, but it shouldn't be a thing, a real thing. But this is what the model does. It tokenizes the word and tries to find the tokens that it will be using for the training. Imagine I use a dash. No, I use a dash separating potato from cooler. And this is now how the model will process this information. As you can see, we have lost cool. Before, cool was broken. You see, it's O-C-O-O-L. That's going to be very difficult for the model to understand if we use potato cooler without the dash. When we add the dash, now the model can see cool, which is going to be more frequent in the training data. It's going to be much easier for the model to understand what that means. So it's very important when you are writing your prompts with any large language model, a dash makes a lot of difference, because that's how the model is going to process the information. Of course, if you break the cool, the model is going to just lose the context and it won't be able to understand cool as is used. So how that looks when the model ends the training. This is the latent space, and we can see how different topics are mapped into that latent space. And here I was pointing to food. This is a different training data. This is for images, and this is called Lion. And it's using the descriptions from the images, but this is a good example for a latent space, so you can familiarize with that idea. If we look at it, we can see that when we use a prompt, we are actually looking into a specific area of this latent space. For food, all the food is very close together. It's very close related. So if we use banana and apple are going to be very close. What happens if we change the topic? Look at this latent space. It looks more sparse. It looks a little bit more noisy. Actually, this is the latent space for celebrities. These are celebrities, pictures of celebrities. And the density is a little bit different. So this is something to take into account when using these models. Some warnings. Of course, we have seen this. If you have been using ChatGPT, you know that some of the data may be non-factual and sometimes is inaccurate. So this is something to take into account. Some ways to fix this is using what is called grounding, and it's basically supporting the data with some external source of data. One thing is that you can do is do a Google search, and if the Google search is supporting the data the model gave you, that gives you a little bit more confidence. You can also use your own database, or you can use what works within Google, which is the Google Knowledge Graph. All right. A little break. But we look into this morning, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. BART is the equivalent of ChatGPT, and there's a lot of features that they have released since March, and I would recommend you to just go and give it a try. Here, there's some features around using images, and some other examples using an image of a butterfly. And here I'm using some pictures of ingredients I want to cook, and I want BART to give me some recommendations for recipes. You can also use it for code, and also if you're doing a homework for physics or math, you can use BART to draw a graph to help you understand. We have also seen the extensions and how it can look into Gmail and also YouTube and other applications. The cats, they do strange things. This cat is making a lot of money. So MakerSuite, if you want to build using Palm and Google AI, MakerSuite will be your tool. And this is where you create your prompts. If you look at the UI, you can create text prompts, data prompts, chat prompts. The only thing that you will require is an API key. Once you have this API key, you can copy the code from a prompt and run it in your developer environment. It's really fast. And here I have a couple of examples. You can imitate the writing style. I mean, there's places where you can look at these prompts and use it in your apps. Another one that is pretty fun is creating a cooking assistant. In this case, I create a cooking assistant called Chef Marco, which will also have the personality of an Italian chef. And you just need to give it the context and give it some tests, and then move that into your code. As you can see in the corner, there's a top right of this screen, there's get code. You can just get the code, move it into JavaScript or Python, and run it, and it will just execute this code for you. Look, it's so excited, yes. So let's look into Palm, and then I will show you a little demo. So Palm was just released last April, and it was using a common crawl, which is, if you know, common crawl is just scanning the internet and downloading all the assets. And of course, in order to be able to code, it had to use GitHub. The information coming from Palm comes mainly from Wikipedia, and that has a size of 340 billion parameters, which is giving you the size of the foundational model. Of course, when we compare Palm, the first thing that we ask is how it does compare to open source and GPT-4 models. If you look at the figures, you can see that the difference is getting like really, really close. I think that in the next year, we are going to get models that are going to be better than GPT-4. And this is coming very, very fast. So this is an overview of the foundational models that you can use to develop your apps. And there's also the text embeddings, which are those arrays that I show you, part of the training data. So these are the different environments. If you are a front-end or web developer, you can use all of these technologies and a REST API. And if you are a back-end developer, you can use mainly Python and all of these other options like Node. And in this case, you will have a client and an SDK to develop it. For Angular, which is the framework that I use, I need to go to MakerSuite, create an API key, and then that gives me access to the Palm foundational model. So very quick, I created a demo, which is what I want to show you, and this is available on my GitHub. And it just demonstrates Palm for text and Palm for chat. So let's quickly move into the demo. And it looks like this. So I'm going to just, I'm just going to pick one of the prompts. And this is just a very simple prompt. Okay, explain to me generative AI like I'm 5. So I'm just going to run it. And you can add this to your applications. It's very easily using MakerSuite. And one thing that I added for fun is voice. So I'm using 11 Labs API, and I picked a very funny accent, which is Italian English. Let's see if you recognize the accent.
Explain generative AI to me like I'm 5. Generative AI can make new things, like art or music, by learning from what people have already made.
Okay, you got a little bit of a taste of what you can build. Another thing that I was experimenting is with Palm for chat. And one thing that you can do is using foundational models, the main problem you face is that you need to interface with text. Your prompt is text, the response is text, but sometimes you want to get visual. And here, I'm using what is called a renderer. So I need to use a renderer for Markdown. If you're using GitHub, you know that GitHub is using Markdown. And here, I have a code fence, which tells me that this is mermaid code. And this mermaid code, in this case, is a sequence diagram. It will be translated in this way for the user. So as you can see, it's very flexible and quite easy to develop. You can see how I build these applications, so you can use it if you need it in your projects. Some other things that I integrated is support for mathematical formulas. So I can let's ask Palm, explain quantum physics to me in using 3 formulas in text format. So this is a specific format that will make the formulas pretty. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that, just to show you some of the flexibility that you can build into your applications. And let's hope this works. Come on, pound. All right, so we have a nice explanation using this format. If I want to see what's the format behind, you can see it here. This formula uses this dollar, and maybe I can select it. So you can see that actually it got this format translated into a nice formula. Of course, for each of these formats, you need to use a renderer, and that can take a little bit of time downloading, finding the renderer, and then including that into your application. But it's a lot of fun. This took me maybe a couple of months to build, so if you want to use it, it's there for you to learn. And let's finish the talk. Happy time. We covered everything, and I hope you got inspired again. Thank you for listening.